upload this to the YouTube and also share it in ADE Slack resource sharing channel. So that's possible to watch this again and again. So it's a Friday night, and maybe it's possible that this will replace your Friday evening movie, for example. But yeah, it's possible that we are joining here for different companies. That is something you can think if you want. And well, yeah, I think now it's time for you, Greg. So please introduce yourself and tell us everything you know about the load options and patterns. Go ahead, Greg.
Thank you, Ville, and hello everybody on the call, and also hello the future listeners to these presentations. My name is Goli. I'm a solution architect at Agile Data Engine. My background has been data warehousing, business intelligence, and ETL. I have over 20 years of experience in that field. Started with the mostly the Oracle and MS SQL databases, and since around 2015, had a chance to help my customers with the cloud journeys. Joined ADE team 2 years ago, but I've been using ADE as a user in one of the customer projects for 5 years actually. So quite a lot already. Let me share this screen. So today I'm going to talk about load options in Agile Data Engine. We will be the objective for the session is sharing the knowledge about what are the load options in ADE, how to use them. It might be that for some of you those concepts are very well known, so there might be nothing really new, but I still hope that structuring the knowledge and sharing some examples might be beneficial. Also, the load options in ADE has been constantly evolving, and new options have been added. Some of you might have also missed the recent additions, which are quite cool actually. I will have a few slides which I wanted to share with you, and then we'll jump into Agile Data Engine frontend, and I'll do a hands-on session on on the most commonly used patterns and those which might be helpful for you if not using them yet. We'll start with the basics and then show some more advanced examples. Not a goal for today. We'll not talk about all possible options and load options. There's a documentation for it, and it's more about showing you how to use them rather than just going through them in detail, because we would need probably half a day for this. I hope that after the session you're comfortable using the load options. You're not afraid of them, which I've also seen at some customerships, and kind of while thinking about implementing solution, you're not reinventing the wheel at the first place. And well, I hope to plant some idea in your head to do your own experiments around load options. So what are load options in ADE and where to find them? So in ADE frontend, there is a load screen where at the bottom of the screen there's a load, add a new load option section, and then you can use a list of those available options. A shortened one is visible on the screen. It might look a little bit scary at the first glance, especially for the less advanced users. But once you start using them, they become logical, and basically all those names and descriptions start to make sense. Important thing, at any stage for the load option, as SQL can be previewed in various dialects. So that's super handy, and I encourage all of you to use that feature. Loads are defined on a logical level, meaning it's database agnostic. You just define the pattern, and then ADE engine translates them to the database SQL syntax. And those might vary across databases, but also might be sometimes handy. Each of the load options has a value. So in most cases, it's either true or false. For some, you can actually type text there, or even parts of the SQL for some of the options. And there's a description of each of the options there, which of course is helpful. It is also available in documentation with more examples and details. When it comes to the types of the load options, there are basically 3 groups of load options. Again, it's in the documentation. I will show it later where to find it. So the first one is load file, and this is used for defining loads of source data files in cloud storage into a table. So typically, it's an integration between a cloud storage and a staging table. So the load between those. There are defaults set in ADE. However, in real life scenarios, there's frequently a need to adjust those defaults. So there are certain options which allow that. Most of the options are of a type transform persist, and those basically define loads from source entities into target tables. And actually, those can be between staging and the data warehouse layer, typically, well, data vault in ADE example, but as a raw structure, but also publishing layer. So there are quite a few nice patterns for the dimensional modeling as well. The third group, transform SQL view, is used for defining views and materialized views. Today, we will basically focus on the transform persist part. One remark, load options might not have an effect, because for some, you need to set additional attributes. So for example, those which which generate SQLs based on the keys and the condition is needed, they need to have a DV hash key defined and so on. But again, it's documented. Once you get hold of it once, then it's super clear how to use it. Also, one remark, if a load is overridden with an override load step, then those load options doesn't take any effect. All right. So how to use those load options in ADE? First of all, define it. Again, feel free to experiment with it. Check the generated query. What's important, multiple load options can be combined together, and that is super powerful. And we will go through a few examples today. Also, I'm getting questions whether the load options, which layer they are applied to. Basically, any object or in Agile Data Engine can use those options. So there's like no limit for this on a higher level. Of course, specific options might not work for certain scenarios, but here it's more about common sense, really. Like a good practice in a project, it's good to, especially while starting a new pattern, it's good to identify a few useful load options which are suitable for a particular implementation, and then just reuse it in the project, make a template out of those, and just use them across the project. The documentation is in Agile Data Engine's web page. Okay, I think without further ado, we can jump into Agile Data Engine. So I've been actually thinking how to go with it, and decided to follow like the pattern from the easiest example to and go a little bit more advanced. So we have an empty really object here, which has a few attributes defined. There are no technical attributes defined currently for any of those. So those are empty basically. And it's a simple dimension load on the publishing layer from one of the satellites view. It has, well, this will be of course a key, the address ID. There are some attributes. There's a source system identifier and a load time column. And by default, it's totally empty now. So if we go to the load section, there's nothing here. And if we click the code preview of the load, so this box on the right hand side, we can easily see the generated SQL for us by Agile Data Engine. So it has the standard insert into and the basic set of columns, no conditions. There's by default there's the distinct added after the select. Okay, so let's go ahead and add a few of those load options. Let's start with the basic ones. For the beginning, let's get rid of that distinct. Let's say we don't want this distinct option, so we can just click skip distinct only. One thing to remember, for some it's not so intuitive. You always need to, whenever there's a true false condition to be set, you need to explicitly click it here, and in brackets you will get the current option. The load option is added, and when we go to the code preview again, we can see that the distinct disappeared from the generated SQL. Now let me show you a bit of a custom code. So at any moment when there's a load, you can use an opt where, and this option actually can be used for the views definition. So you can pretty much write any condition here to the source SQL. So that is sometimes also handy because you don't actually need to create an object in between the layers, but can be used like this. I'll just write there's the address field there. So if you write that where statements here, let's say address ID less than 100, let's add it here. Again, preview, and it's been added nicely to the load. And as you can see, those can be chained or added in multiple conditions can be added here, and that's the usual way. Let's add one more now from like the basic list of options. That's actually sometimes used as well. I've tried to choose the basic ones. So opt not exist where. So this will give us an opportunity to add a condition to our load. So let me just add a simple, okay, sorry. Let me just add it. Opt not exist where. And let's add a condition there to bind the source and the target entities. And let's say source system is something we want to compare the data with in the load statement. So if we add it like this, what it will do for us is the the SQL is now a bit, has started to grow a little bit more. So it added this part of the where not exist statement. So the condition we added was to that not exist clause was added, and then the condition we specified there, it goes basically here. You might, for example, then ask, what's the what should I put here in the source and in the target? I don't remember it myself and don't need to really. It's enough to, again, experiment, just try it out. And as you can see here, the alias was added automatically. So use the TRG here, and other SRC is used here. So that will basically work. Then maybe one more, which, well, we would like, for example, to sort the source data set as well, order the rows. Can be useful for Snowflake partitioning, for instance. So let's use the opt order by option. And let's use the address ID field for this, and add a new condition. And what we see now is the condition has been added to the end of the statement, basically. So yeah, those basic options are as simple as that to use. It's easy to add them, remove them, and just simply play around with them. Any questions at this point to those? Everything clear? Okay, if not, let's also, if there are any questions, please use the chat for those, and I'll try to answer those at the end of the presentation. Okay, now a bit more advanced concepts or group of load options. Let's now use the, I prepared the object in advanced here. Let's now use the options to play around with the keys and hashes. So that's sort of the second group of the load patterns. So, for example, if we want to now load the target table in a more sophisticated way, meaning let's start with the merge statements or insert update, and let's use an ID for that. So we add a load option here again, and let's use the opt insert update by ID as swap, so the first available here. Select it as true load, and what it generates for now is, okay, sorry, I just wanted to first show this. So basically, in order to make that work correctly, for any load options that require keys, you need to define the technical attribute type. So in our case, the address ID, we want it to be a key. So we'll use here that option here to explicitly set it. So let's use it. This one would be a DV hash key for the ID of the address. Save it, and let's also set the row hash for this particular hashing. Well, this column contains a hash of the row. So let's use the DV data hash here. Now, if we go to the load section, what will happen is with this load option, what will happen is it will use the swap pattern for this particular load. So in Snowflake syntax, it will create first a temporary table. As you can see, it will join the source this is actually the target table with the source data set. It will make a union of those. The not exist condition is also there. It will calculate a hash for us here. And then based on the temporary table, it will use a gatekeeper, which will make sure the key is, I mean, the rows are there, and before swapping the final table, it will make sure there are some rows in the table, and then it will use an insert override in Snowflake for this pattern. Okay. Let me now show you one more super cool pattern which has been recently added, which is the SCD2 dimension support. So slowly changing dimension, meaning the rows, the attributes, and actually it's now a default pattern for loading dimensions. So what SCD2 will do in that dimension, in that context, it will generate rows for each of the change in the target database. So let me just show it to you how that would look in the database. That's actually, well, I executed it before the session already, just to save some time here. What it will do, so the target table for the address table, address dimension here for one ID would be so that there will be a start time and end time whenever a record gets invalidated, and then there will be a current flag indicator for the most recent row, and of course the end time is going to be null there. So this has been added quite recently, but of course it's super handy to have that and don't need to code it manually. So how it looks like as a definition, in the attributes list, you define a hash key, you define a data hash, so a hash of the entire row, start time. So it's our DV load time is the start time of the validity of the record, delete time, and the current flag and the status technical attribute type is set here. What's also useful in this pattern, you can use so this option is called opt historized with soft delete by data hash as merge. What's useful, you can use the delta extract option for it, and it will what it will do, it will check whether you have a full data set or a delta data set. You can define whether you want to compare the entire data sets. So in case of a full extract, you would probably like to invalidate rows which don't exist in the target. In case of delta extract, you just want to compare those which exist in the source and in the target. So I actually have a slide here for this. So this opt delta extract will detect the deletes. It has been used in the status satellite load by default, but for such cases it also is useful. If set to false, this exists part from the SQL statement gets removed, so no comparison by the key. And as you can see, that SQL can get already a bit bigger, so almost 100 lines of code here. Okay, one last pattern I wanted to share. Run ID and time slot logic, we haven't covered at all those two because that's probably a topic for a separate session. But pretty much all the presented loads can be used with run ID and time slot logic. So then ADE will only load new batches by keeping track of loaded run IDs between a source and a target entity. And in real life, this is an example from a transactional link. So ordering the rows by time column and then scanning only the latest by key in the source, and then the run IDs options. Run IDs used incrementally, and then the time slot logic to put the date condition on the target. One thing I just wanted all of you to take away from this session: before you're planning to do any new solution with a custom code, custom SQL in Agile Data Engine, just check if there is already a load pattern for a solution you're planning to use. At least in many cases, it's so that partially it can be already there. Okay, thank you for listening. I hope you haven't fallen asleep there on the session. Let's have, are there any questions or comments or stories to be shared around those load options?
Yeah, thanks, Greg. And before sharing those, I will now end the recording, so you can feel free to ask or comment on this.